I'm gonna start recording as well. Okay, you're good?
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so it's Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. This is the meeting of the Public Safety Committee of CB11. I am Veronica Castro, co-chair.
I'm Tiz Nastasio, co-chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm the chair, not the co-chair. I'm confused today. Go ahead.
Eliezer Rodriguez, board member.
And online, we have Dwayne Williams, also a board member. And our guest today is Officer Maderos from the 49th Precinct Crime Prevention Officer. The first thing we want to do is, just to get it out of the way, is the minutes. So I'll ask the board, the committee members, you did look at the minutes that I forwarded to you?
Yes,
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we accept the January 2023 minutes as drafted,
Second.
seconded by Tiz. Any objection? Any abstention? Okay, the minutes passed. Thank you. I know, I see that it also says November minutes. The agenda that we have here is incorrect, but that's okay. We'll be fine with it. Okay, so first we'd like to ask Officer Maderos to give us the stats.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to have made it. I was actually assigned to a different precinct just a few minutes ago.
Hmm.
And I was literally able to make it on time, so it was actually pretty amazing. You were assigned to a new precinct.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off too for a
Basically,
minute.
was
there.
it a temporary assignment?
Temporary assignment.
Okay.
You're very welcome. So you just threw us all for a loop there.
Yeah, no, every once in a while, we all get assigned to different places, do different things. Today I was in transit in the South Bronx.
Okay.
So, and I made it back. Let's see, stats. Oh, wait, no. Is that right? Okay, that is right. The stats for the past 28-day period, starting on some day that I don't have memorized, but basically the 28-day period is ended this past Sunday. So going Sunday and basically counting 28 days back is the period that I'm talking about. Crime, well, the 7 majors, which is what we typically track, which would be murder, rape, robbery, felony assaults, burglary, grand larceny, and grand larceny of automobiles. Those crimes went up this past 28-day period as compared to this period last year. It only went up by 0.8%. So in terms of percentage, it is pretty nominal. It's basically, we held steady. Year to date, we are up in crime 2.5%. I mean, that being basically January to this point in February, as compared to last January to this point of February last year. In terms of that statistic, we are basically holding steady, statistically at least. The biggest areas of concern so far this year has been a continuing trend for the past few years, which has been grand larcenies of automobiles. We already have 64 complaints of this as compared to 46 complaints last year. That being an increase of 39%. The second largest increase we've actually had is burglary, which has not been an issue for a while for the command. We have had 30 complaints of burglaries so far this year, as compared to 19 complaints of burglary this time last year.
That's a big increase.
Yes, it's a
Just like
57,
double.
yeah, 57% increase in burglary complaints. Those are, well, the next increase would be robbery. We've had 37 complaints of robbery this year as compared to 27 complaints of robbery last year. That is a 37% increase.
We're only in the
I'm
month,
sorry.
second month of the year.
Excuse me,
I'm
the
sorry.
committee gets to ask questions
I'm
first.
sorry.
and
I
we'd like to
apologize.
Let Officer Maderos go do. the
I
statutory
apologize.
positions.
I
Thank you.
apologize, but that's a lot.
The oh dang it.
You were at 37% increase.
Okay, yes. The good news and the bad is that we are down in complaints for grand larcenies. We had 72 complaints of grand larceny this year, as compared to 93 complaints last year. That's a 22% drop. And felony assaults were also down on that. We had 41 complaints of felony assault this year, as compared to 52 complaints last year. So that's a 21% drop. And we've had one less homicide this year than last year. So far this year, we have not had homicide. Hopefully that's a trend that continues. Last year, this time, we had already had one. Now for some of the trends that are happening. We have a few patterns of crime occurring. A lot of the patterns are actually robbery patterns. The robbery patterns basically follow the same line. The only difference is really the commercial robbery pattern that we have currently. A lot of the patterns are street crimes. They consist of group of males typically jumping out of cars and accosting whoever their target is on the street. These particular crimes typically happen in the areas where we have business districts. So within a few blocks of Allerton Avenue, within a few blocks of White Plains Road, and between Pelham and Leidig, between a few within a few blocks of Leidig Avenue, between Bronx Park East and Matthews Avenue, and within a few blocks of Morris Park Avenue. However, in terms of Morris Park, that's typically in the west side of Morris Park. So that's typically anywhere around maybe Garfield, maybe going up to, again, Matthews. Those are typically the areas that we have robberies. We have at least one open pattern of commercial robberies. That robbery pattern consists of smoke shops. Smoke shops have been getting hit all across the city. Typically, the pattern is multiple males with multiple firearms going into any particular location and taking money and tobacco products for the most part. Originally, this was a single pattern that also consisted of events happening in the 49 precinct. I believe it is now multiple patterns, basically the same MO, different crews hitting different spots across the city. We I think maybe a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago now, we had an incident on Allerton Avenue and Barnes Avenue where a smoke shop got hit. From what I understand, an arrest was made on that particular instance. I don't have the details of the arrest as to who, why, and where. I don't have it. I just know that someone was arrested. That being said, unfortunately, the robberies continue. Within the last maybe 3 weeks, we had the location on Pelham Parkway, White Plains Road get hit. And within maybe the last week, we had a location on Morris Park and Victor, maybe closer to Unionport.
I think it was 689, something like that.
Something like
Yeah.
that. So in that area is another smoke shop slash convenience store, and they got robbed. From what I understand from that particular instance, we don't believe that was part of any pattern, at least for now. That might have been a solo person who came in to rob a store. With that being said, that is the fourth instance of a smoke shop getting robbed within the 49 precinct within the past maybe 4 to 5 months. At least 2 of the instances were part of a pattern. The one instance on White Plains Road in Pelham, I'm not sure if that's part of a pattern, but I won't be surprised. And like I already stated, the last instance, as I believe right now, is not part of any pattern. The other crime patterns that we're having right now is in regards to grand larcenies of automobiles. The most recent pattern will be what's basically being referred to as the TikTok challenge. There was a bunch of videos online about individuals showing basically how to steal Kias and Hyundais. Kia and Hyundais are different manufacturers, but they're owned by the same company, as far as I understand. So they basically built on the same platform, same frames, same engines, same internals, same security systems. So these vehicles, multiple models from 2010 to 2021, any of those models that are equipped with mechanical keys, the standard key, nothing push button. Those cars are basically easily stolen. The method shown online is a USB, the end of a USB cord. So basically, they break the column, and then literally stick a USB cord, something like that, something to that effect. I'm not gonna go too much into it, but common, not even a tool, something common that most people have in multiples in their homes, and they're using that to break and take cars. So in the past 28 days, well, not even past 3 weeks, we've had 9 instances of that in the command. No, 10 instances of that in the command. The only saving grace to that, though it's going to be a slow one, is that last week the manufacturers recently announced a security update, a software update for their vehicles. It's only in effect for their Elantra, Sonata, I think something called the Venue. Something to that effect. I don't know the specific name of that car. They're rolling out a software security update for those vehicles so that the method of theft will no longer apply to these vehicles. For the rest of the lines that are in effect, they're going to have those security updates available by June, as far as they've said. These updates are free, so if you have any family, friends that have Kias and Hyundais, they're pretty common. Just let them know that they should probably get their cars updated, and to keep track of those updates when available through the manufacturer's websites. Another crime pattern that's been happening recently is involving U-Haul. We've had multiple instances of what we call unauthorized use of a motor vehicle from U-Haul. What people are doing is they're renting U-Haul trucks, vans, whatever they are, and they're just simply not returning them. I don't know the specific number of how many of these vehicles have been lost so far, but the number is unusually high for what they usually report. The next crime pattern would be rims. Right now, people are back in the command stealing rims again. It's something that comes and goes, but now they've come again. They are typically target Toyota Camrys, Toyota Highlanders, Honda CR-Vs, and Acura MDXs. So those are basically the vehicles that they're targeting. Typical for the past few years, I have been going around saying you should get wheel locks, get multiple wheel locks, turn your wheel into the curb to prevent at least the front wheels from getting taken. Unfortunately, a lot of the wheel locks that are used these days have, I guess, wrenches that are pretty common. You can just buy a set of wheel locks yourself, and then you can just get the wrench, and then that wrench will fit most of the wheel locks you'll see on the street. As for the other wheel lock keys, you can get those there's actually on eBay, there's a set of them available right online. You just get a set of keys, and that basically circumvents just about any type of wheel lock that is on the market. So I've been imploring people to do their research online. There is at least one product online that serves as a wheel lock, but it's different in that it doesn't go on a lug. It actually covers all the lugs on a rim, which makes it kind of unique in terms of rim security. And because of that, they are able to use a standard high security key to open it as compared to some type of wrench that's available online. The only flaw to that is that it's expensive. They typically start at $450 to $500. But at the same time, if you are an owner of one of these high target vehicles, $500 may very well be cheaper than $1,500 a rim. So it would definitely be worth searching online of anything that purports to guard rims, anything to that effect. And you should be able to see the types of products that are available online for your particular vehicle. And that's it. I can be long-winded, so I guess.
So starting with the committee members in the room, do you have any questions for Officer Maderos?
Regarding the U-Haul thefts, is there a pattern where false information is being given to the dealer or the vendor in order to rent the U-Haul? How's that being tracked?
I'm not privy to the investigations, so I don't know. There's really only two ways to do it, as far as I can tell from my own experience of U-Haul. Either you show your own ID, you just don't show up with a car, or you use fake IDs, something good enough to fool.
That's what I'm thinking. It's
Yeah.
you give them your ID, it'd be easier to get back to you.
Yeah, so I mean, U-Haul requires licenses for the most part. So I assume people are showing licenses. Whether those licenses are real or fake is not something I'm privy to at this point.
I rented a U-Haul not too long ago, and the whole time that I was there, the guy that was helping me was watching television the whole time. He wasn't paying attention to it. I'm just wondering if it's easy because they're really not paying enough attention. I mean, the whole time I was watching a movie, I just with me, I'm trying to get attention. I don't know.
Okay, Dwayne or Melanie, do you have any questions for Officer Maderos?
No questions. Thanks.
No question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And starting in the room, do anyone here like to address anything with Officer Maderos?
I have a lot of things that I'd like to address with Doc.
Can you just state your name?
My name is Rosemary Baran, and I live at 2220 Wickham in the Pelham Gardens section of this district. But I think it would be better to have Janine speak on her behalf regarding I can preface it and then you give them the details, but they're gonna probably ask me questions.
I'll start.
You can start because these two women, Lois Lombardi and Janine Salerno, were directly involved regarding incidences on our street, Wickham Avenue and
I think I already
Stillwell.
know.
Right. So would you tell them what happened and then I'll tell you my concerns, all right?
Okay.
I want to just preface this by saying my father was a police officer, detective for 20 years. My uncle, my cousin's still on the job. I was always raised, always go to the police for help. So that's why this really hits home. That November, I never had to call 911. born and raised in the Bronx, never had to call. November I had to call, November 15th, called 3 times, nobody came. And then Thursday night, called 12:37 a.m. because this man was at my door. Show you his picture. There he is. And was trying to get in, insisting he was coming in. Was talking to him through the ring, kept telling him, I'm coming in. I've been here before, let me in, yelling at him, would not leave. Walking around my house, kept on my lawn, just insisting. I don't know what was in his hand, on the phone with, 911, telling them, we'll send someone. Nobody came. Called back a half hour later, this man is still there. I have 3 kids in the house. My husband's on the phone with him now. My husband said, listen, if you don't do something, I have to protect my family. Your actions will have consequences. That's what you say? No, your actions are gonna have consequences. Like, I don't understand. 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody finally came and said, we don't see anyone.
It's not funny,
It's not.
but you're laughing.
So-
Kristen.
I'm laughing because I find it to be ridiculous
Yeah.
that no one came to you. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, when probably no one's up, is when they show up.
Right.
That's why.
So, you know what, like, it's like, my kids are like, weren't you scared, mommy? I'm like, no, I'm freaking pissed off. Like, I'm not even scared. Like, I'm mad. Like, I wanted to go out the back door with a baseball bat and hit this man over the head. Like, get away from my property. November 15th, the same thing happened. Woken up, a car up and down the block, screeching. He's gonna kill somebody. All of a sudden, this man gets out of the car. He can't even walk. He needed help, obviously. We call 911. We're telling him what's going on. Okay, we'll send someone. Next thing you know, this man has a baseball bat. My house is shaking. He's beating the car, like glass shattering. You could hear it on the phone. We're telling him he's gonna, like, nobody came. Nobody came. This man's stumbling in the street. Nobody came. I did my own investigation. Change of Seasons, the man Charlie that owns Change of Seasons, he's going through a divorce. He stole his wife's car. He abandoned it on my block because he said it was a quiet block and he worked on somebody's pool on the block and left it there. The car was there for a week. The tow truck finally came, but it was a neighborhood guy. But still, nobody came. When the police came a week later, we went out to talk to them. And they were like, oh, yeah, we saw the report. But officer, what do you have to do to get help? What do I say? Do I say that they have a gun? Like, what do I say to get somebody to come? I burned a chicken cutlet. The fire department was there, literally, no joke, in 2 minutes. Like,
I believe it.
so should I set my fire alarm off? Do I say I see a gun? Like, how do I get help? I don't know what to do anymore. I'm raising 3 kids in the Bronx. Like, what do I do? Do I have to run like everybody else did? My street is named after a family that their son is a cop, and they left because their son told the mother, Ma, you have to leave because nobody's going to come if you need help, basically. And they moved up to Mayapack. And like the street is named after this man's father, and he's a police officer for the city, but they left too. So if, God forbid, we need help, what do we do to get the police to come? Do I lie? I know you can't tell me to lie, but do I say somebody has a weapon at my door the next time? Do I set off my smoke alarm so at least the fire department will come? Or do I take matters into my own hands? Because I have to protect my kids. And I have no problem doing that.
I'm gonna try and touch, because you actually raised a few different issues.
Mhm.
First one, self-defense. As long as the person's outside your property, there is no grounds for self-defense in New York State. So hypothetically, he's banging on the door, let's say he's shattering windows. It's a property crime. There is no justification for self-defense yet.
Even shattering a window.
Shattering windows, breaking property, taking property, no justification. So hypothetically speaking, let's say your husband said, and went out with a baseball bat with nothing, just his hands.
Mhm.
and handle business, let's just say.
Right.
Your husband can be liable for assault.
Mhm.
Because like I said, there is no self-defense clause for protecting property. It's different if the person enters. But even then, entry is not enough. Self-defense is only justified as last resort. So let's say the guy enters, and let's say the entire family is in the kitchen and there's a rear door in the kitchen. You're supposed to escape. There is no standard ground in New York State. So even though it makes logical sense to me to protect your house, New York State will not support that. That's basically just how it is. You have to use any and every method to escape or to de-escalate. And if that is not clearly what has happened, you are liable for whatever happens. Second issue, how to get us there faster. No, I can't tell you to lie. I don't know what happened in November. It sounds odd to me that no one would show up, assuming that you said on 911 that someone is at my property with a baseball bat, breaking windows. Is it breaking glass?
Breaking the car, yeah,
Breaking
shattering.
car windows.
Yeah.
It sounds odd to me that no one would show up for that. I can't even begin to give an excuse as to why not. I don't know. As for what happened a few days ago,
Thursday, yeah, we
Thursday.
called twice.
from
At 3 o'clock they came. We started calling at 12:30. At 3 o'clock they came and said, we don't see anybody.
Yeah. I don't know much about that. The only thing I know is that the call came in around 12:15, 12:11, something like that, a little bit after midnight. The call was open until 2:37 in the morning. Officers arrived at 2:36, and they stated basically that no one was out there and they closed up the job.
Yeah.
The job came over a suspicious person. If I remember correctly, there was no mention of weapons being in his hand or possibly in his hand. There wasn't even a possibility of writing it down. When that happens, and we get a suspicious person job, that is considered low priority. We show up when we can. And in that particular case, for whatever the reason, it was 2 hours later. Depending on what you tell 911 will depend on what the job is classified as. That classification dictates how fast we respond. So if it's just, hey, there's some guy in my property banging on my door, that is not a high priority. Should it be a high priority? Depending on the time of day, I would say yes, but that distinction is not made through the 911 system. So me, I've been on the job 19 years. If I'm working on the midnight, which is the tour that you made the call on, and I hear and it comes over a suspicious person, which we get all the time, and they're usually nonsense. And then I hear at 2 a.m, someone's calling saying that someone's on the property banging on the doors, threatening us, don't know who it is. That's a little different from getting that same call 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I would personally think that the job is a little bit more important than what 911 would classify it as. I'd be more inclined to get there a little faster. But at the same time, that depends on what I'm doing at that time. That being said, a lot of the officers that we have in the command right now are less than 5 years on. And when I mean less than, I mean probably more likely less than 3 years on. They're all fairly new, and they're being trained by officers that have similar time on the job than them. a lot of the senior officers are, I guess there's just not enough of that class of officer at the command right now. I may be like part of maybe a handful that have my time on that are left. So they may not realize yet that such a call, even though it's low priority, in the middle of the night, should be something you should probably go to. In prioritizing ahead as to you want to just go check it out as fast as possible. But like I said, I'm kind of just throwing it out there. I don't know specifically what that unit was doing. I can't tell you why they took 2 hours. I really don't. The only thing I can say is that we are short manpower on all of our tours. We just recently got 20-something officers though, which is very nice. The problem is that right now they are in the field training unit. So they are not assigned to patrol. So they're not really doing patrol functions as in the answering 911 calls just yet. They will be answering 911 calls here and there, but they're not diversified into all our tours just yet. So they are concentrated on our day tour and on our evening tour. None of them are on the midnights.
So hypothetically, if I would have said, it looks like there's a weapon in his hand, would that have speeded it up a little bit?
I would think so.
The fact that he threatened to come into the house, what do you know?
Yeah. So the only thing I can give you is the legal answer, which I gave.
Right.
Not a very satisfying answer. But that's basically how it is in New York City, New York State. Wickham has been on our radar in the past few months lately, which is unusual because Wickham and that entire area are usually very quiet. With that being said, the problem that we're having is that despite the fact that Wickham is increasingly coming on our radar, every other part of the command is much worse, specifically the west side. Anything past Williamsbridge Road to the west of Williamsbridge Road is the majority of our crime, specifically violent crime. So a lot of our resources are dedicated to the west side of the precinct. And the east side, which is the quieter side, basically, for the most part, gets left. I'll revisit the issue with the commanding officer and see if we can have more patrol on the midnights in that particular area, because things aren't getting violent,
No,
but they're getting
yeah.
weird.
It's drugs. I mean, I
Yeah,
walk my dog, and what I see in the morning, I mean, what goes on in the cars on Stillwell at night, I mean, it's
Yeah,
quiet,
things
it's
are getting-
dark, it's desolate, and things are happening.
Yeah, things in that neighborhood that don't traditionally happen in the neighborhood are happening. So I'll see if he can have units be more mindful of that area.
So my name is Lois Lombardi. And before I get to my incident, I'm just like, I knew the legalities of you not being able to come out and defend yourself. And they'd have to come into the house before you could defend yourself. And even that's a last resort. I knew those legalities because my son is a lawyer. And he told me when I was going to kill somebody, to be very honest. So to say that 911 can't decide if something is important to send people is just not acceptable. They need some new training. You have someone calling in saying someone's banging at my door at 12:30 in the morning, wanting to get in, banging on, and they don't consider that a priority. That's nonsense. I'm sorry. It is wrong. And we pay taxes just like on the side that's bad. And we're the ones usually paying more because we're in a nicer area. We deserve respect, and we deserve safety. That's an answer to her. I live right around the block from her. Okay? I'm right on Stillwell Avenue. I see the cars zoom and racing down Pelham Parkway. No one ever comes to stop them. One of these days, these cars are gonna go into a crash and there's gonna be a fire.
There has been.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And it is very, when I wake up in the morning, you know, my husband's out very early in the morning because he's in construction. He locks everything up. He puts the alarm back on because he doesn't want me sleeping in the house by myself without an alarm on. And he has to clean nonsense on the floor. Disgusting. Who's having sex, who's having drugs. It's not right. This needs to be looked into. That's that issue. My big issue was on December 25th, Christmas evening. I was on my way back from Pennsylvania. We were there for the day for the holiday. My alarm went off. It was about 8 o'clock at night. And my alarm company calls. And I said, well, I'm not home. If the alarm's going off, call the police. They said, we just want to confirm that everything is okay. And I said, hello, I'm not there. I don't know if everything's okay. Call the police. And so they did. Okay, now I paid for that. I paid for my alarm and I paid to be connected to the police. For the police to tell me that an alarm is not a priority, I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. So it went off. We pulled up to my driveway at about 8:30. We were like half an hour out. And as I'm pulling up, every one of my lights is on in the house and my stomach sunk. I went running in, undid it. I had gifts out, I had money out. We saw where they came in. They broke through the window in the back into my den. And I went running upstairs to the bedroom to see, you know, the lights upstairs were not on. Nothing was touched. Came back down. I said to my husband, everything seems to be here. He's looking, back door was then locked. So now I have a camera in the back. So while we were driving in to New York, I'm watching the camera of who's coming to my house. And I see EMS and the fire department. And I said, do we have a fire? Couldn't imagine. When I was there, everyone was gone. My next door neighbor came out and said to me, Lois, the fire department was here, EMS was here. They said they got an alarm from someone, like, you know, when they wear that wrist thing and they fall and need help.
Yeah.
And they kept telling them, well, nobody old lives in this house. They're young. They went to the back. They found my back door open. They came in and searched the house. They came in searching to find somebody on the floor. I don't know who said that, but they pulled up at the same time that robber was there. And that's why they didn't take anything. They ran out. Because you want to know when the police came? At 3:30 in the morning. From 8 o'clock call. Well, maybe not 3:30, maybe it was more like 1:30. They show up. We were already in bed. Came back down. He says, you had the alarm? Yes. Made them come in. So I showed them. I says, now the person who robbed me was not on the camera. They jumped from the backyards. Because my camera's facing this way when you're walking in. And they said, well, gee, why was the fire department and EMS here? I said, you know what, I don't know, but if it wasn't for them, I'd be totally robbed. Now they leave. The story's not over. He rings my doorbell again and comes back in. And now I understand. They're probably all new people who don't know what they're doing. And he says, are you Lois? I says, yes. He goes, oh, I hate to do this to you, but I have a warrant for your arrest. What? What? Of course, a few other words besides what. And my husband says, hold on a minute. Let me see what you have. 1737 Stillwell Avenue in Brooklyn. Brooklyn.
Yes, there's a still.
Yes, I know. And I wonder if that's where the alarm thing went off. And her first name was Lois, but her last name was not Lombardi. And he says, look at this, look at 2 things before you come in here and tell my wife that you're going to arrest her. And now I understand.
This is a regular uniformed officer?
Yes. So now, I'm and they were nice people. I mean, but they're young. And now I understand. These are young people coming in and they're not being properly trained. So is this what we have to fight for? For our governors and God only knows whatever stupid people are in power? That we have to fight that these people need more training because obviously it's unacceptable. The timing is unacceptable. And how they handle things, very, nonchalant. You're coming in, oh, there was alarm. Don't walk in my house nonchalant. I was nervous. I'm nervous to stay home by myself now. My alarm is always on. It's not right that we should live like this because we pay taxes. Okay? We're not illegals. Don't get me started.
Well, that's a conversation for another day.
Did I say
Um,
something?
I would like to address things. It is very possible that the Brooklyn job was the life alert and they said it's your house. That's actually happened multiple times. Don't ask me why. Not specifically to your house, but to Stillwell Avenue.
Right.
It's happened multiple times throughout the years, where jobs from Brooklyn are confused from jobs in the Bronx. It's not that common, but it's not that unusual either. It's kind of something we've been trying to correct at the precinct level for years, and it just doesn't happen. With that being said, what you're talking about is a house alarm. To us, that is considered, the code is a 1011 job, which is basically an alarm, whether it be commercial or house, it doesn't matter, it's all 1011. The reason why it's a low priority job is because statistically, upwards of 97% of the alarms that we get all throughout the city are nonsense. 97 and above. That is something that's held true for decades now, unfortunately. So because of that, that is a job that's held almost at the lowest tier of response. The exception is when that job comes over between the hours of 11 and 5 a.m. 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. At that point, it's considered a higher priority because of the likelihood of that not being a mistrigger or something, or someone
But would it not occur to someone December 25th, Christmas Day? Yeah, probably people are out and yeah, maybe it is being robbed.
Probably not.
They don't think.
Those types of, well, it's not just that. The problem with that is the time of day. Because if it happened at 8 p.m., that basically falls on the lowest rung of priority. Just almost anything is of a higher priority than that job at that point. So it falls to whoever's available. We'll get there when we get there. It's not something anyone wants to hear, especially when you want to spend money on an alarm system. But that's just the reality of what happens in New York City. What I typically tell people, because I'm a specialist in physical security, that if you're going to spend money for an alarm system, you should spend money for a video camera system. Those systems both have to work in tandem, and and I'm not talking about like cameras, simple cameras that have subscription services to them, maybe cameras that you put on your doorbell. I'm not talking about cameras like that. I'm talking about cameras that have independent hubs that record for days on end, those types of systems. The reason why you need them both is because without an internet connected camera system where you can play back records live on demand, house alarms will be sent to the lowest rung of priority for us. So what I tell people to do is that once you get some type of notification like that from um, central monitoring company, is to um, immediately go to your phone, whatever you got, check check your cameras, check them all, and to see if there actually is someone on the property. And if the alarm's going off, they should be in the property at that point. So what that does is that gives, well, if you see something like that, then you can call 911 and you can tell us that it's not an alarm. You can tell us there's a burglary. That changes the priority. It goes from an alarm to a major crime in progress. So you will find us getting there within minutes instead of within hours. That is probably, at least for now, the only way to make an alarm system work for you in New York City. The only difference would, the only possible difference would be panic buttons. There's a different, it sounds trivial, but there's a difference between a magnetic contact sensor going off in a house and someone with a remote or someone at the panel pressing the help button. That comes over differently. It comes over as panic. At that point, it raises the priority for us as well. Though admittedly not by that much, but definitely we'll be looking to get there a little faster than whenever we can. I think I answered, Dory?
You did.
Yeah.
I'm not happy, but you did.
Yeah.
So officer, my name is Rosemarie Baranin and I live at 2220 Wickham Avenue, directly across the street from Jimmy. I've had an incident happen at our house about 33 years ago. And my young daughter, 12 years old, was in the house and the entire front door frame was removed. My daughter had the phone in the bathroom with her. She called the school at which I worked at the time on Bruckner and Crosby, and she alerted my supervisor that the house was being robbed. The men were in the house. I immediately left the classroom unattended and simultaneously arrived with the police officers in the community 49th district. To say the least, I was traumatized then, and I still can vividly see the blood on my rugs up through the stairs, and they ransacked my entire house, took the time to take sheets off the beds and everything else into them.
Oh.
But that's 33 years ago, so this is not, crime is nothing new. And I've been a victim of crime at that time. My concern to you is, since there is a lack of a timely response, and with your information given to us now, a fairly young staff, what can seniors, my husband and I, go ahead to do? Because at the time, 33 years ago, we put in security doors. We have an alarm system within the house that goes directly to the precinct and other supporting agencies.
That's what I wanted to touch on. I'll get back to that.
Yeah, so that if you get that agency, the fire department will come, the ambulance will, they will all come. But I had 3 children, babies at the time. 12 was the eldest, 12, 10, and 8, 3 little girls. And when I walked into that horror scene, not knowing anything of what transpired, but thinking to myself in my brain that my baby is either being raped or murdered because of what this crime scene looked like. That's not a pretty picture. All right. So we proceeded. We are law-abiding citizens, long life residents of the Bronx. We love the culturally rich city. I respect, honor, and obey my NYPD blue men and women on this task force. Truly. I want to know how, as citizens in this neighborhood, can we help you? So I took the liberty of trying to find out where to go. We no longer have what we used to have 40 years ago. There used to be a Chester Civic Organization. There were concerned citizens. We're gone, you know, and it's over. I get it. It's a sign of the times. It's not only in New York. It's throughout the United States. The culture is very, very different. But I do not want my husband or myself to be victims of crime firsthand. But when I saw this young law-abiding citizen, hardworking mother of three, a devoted person who does everything for her family, my heart was bleeding for this child. I'm telling you, I cried for her because it's wrong. When you have three kids sleeping in your bed, no matter how old they are, we look to you, the men in blue. What do we do? So then I knew we don't have Chester Civic, we don't have Northeast Bronx, and we're just Pelham Gardens. So they said, I've been paying dues to the Allerton Civic Association. And I get it. It's just on paper, like this community board is just on paper. I have come to this community board many times in the last 45 years for different issues. But then I have to bring it to the media, and I have to bring it to the TV station, and I have to go directly to whatever organization it takes to get a tree that's falling on my house. And they respond to me, is anybody dead yet? Is that a way to respond? It's ludicrous. So I go in hopes that maybe, since when I called here and the man who answered the phone told me, this is the protocol. You call this person at the police station. The response from your detective was terrific. I don't know who the detective is. I think I wrote his name. Yeah, he was wonderful. He was very patient. But I think I also spoke to you with regard to the buses that were obstructing the Astor Avenue turns. I spoke to another community liaison at the 49th
It
precinct.
might be one of the others.
I don't know who it was, but anyway, I'm not really good with details. So I'm trying to get better at it. And I was then given information because the man, Chris, said, I don't know if his name is Chris. What was his name? Chris Kirks? Yeah, him. He said to me, well, you need to find out who your neighborhood officer is. You need to find out who your detective is. And you cannot communicate with them. What do you mean? I pay taxes just like they do, just like you do, right? So I went ahead, I called all these different phone numbers. I learned that we are in segments, and we're segment Charlie. And there are two officers that are assigned to our designated area. An Officer Bell and a Kiana Bell and a Kenneth Woyson. Okay, so I left messages for them, several of them on the precinct message machine, never returned my call. But the detective did, and we spoke at length about my concerns. And I said to him, I hear that there's a meeting at Allerton Avenue, and I'm going to communicate with them too, because there's something to be said about numbers. If the community and the neighborhood gathers together in numbers and we are loud enough, it is the squeaky wheel that gets addressed. Whether the crime is in exponential numbers in the west, south of us, north, etc., it doesn't matter. We matter too. Just like you matter. Don't you matter? Don't your kids matter?
Of course.
Wouldn't your parents matter? So I learned the Allerton Community Association has a very nice little group, but they're a little group. They need numbers. So I took it upon myself. I went door to door to my neighbors, and I learned an awful lot on only one street about the drugs that are being deposited and transacted on the corner of Wickham and Astor on the northwest corner. I learned about the sex that's openly demonstrated on the far north side, East Wickham Avenue. I learned about Lois Lombardi's incident. And I learned that there are many people in this community. Only one day I got 21 people, 21 families to give me their donations to Allerton's Homeowners Association. They don't consider themselves Allerton, but I don't care what name you want to give us. We are the Bronx residents, the forgotten borough, the worst borough of the Bronx. That's what they're given, but it's not so bad. We have a lot of positives. The accessibility to the cities. Are we safe to open it?
No,
They're just saying hello.
That's a window.
Huh? He's coming in?
no, if they want to come in, they have to
come around.
That's a window.
Yeah,
It wasn't the wind, it's a man that passed for the trench coat.
no,
Yeah,
it's
just knock on
fine.
the window.
If he wants to come in, he'll come around to the other side.
So anyway, so my proposal to you is this. The money comes from your political organizations. In order for the police to get funding, The money has to be allocated either through the federal government, city government, I don't know what branch of government. But our elected officials within this jurisdiction, the assembly, the council, et cetera, need to know that we as a voice want to help you so that you can help us. I do not want or condone a vigilante attitude. On a thread that I sent to my neighbors, one of them responded by saying, I guess it's time. Oh, it's not a trench coat. Hello.
This is Debbie. She's a community board member.
Hello, Debbie, community board member. It's not my mentality to go according to one of the members of our neighborhood who said, I guess, and to quote this person, it is time to lock down and load up. I don't have a weapon. You have the weapon. You're there to protect me. My husband is a wonderful person. He's a gentleman. He's not an aggressive person. But if he gets to the point where he's going to have to hurt somebody, he's going to do it with his own fist. So does he need to do that at 75 years old? There are plenty of seniors in this community that are alone and scared now. It's everywhere. It's not only in the Bronx. I'm not running away. I love the theater. We went to 3 shows within 2 weeks. Best restaurants anywhere within this borough and the neighboring communities. So I want to know, how is it that the Morris Park Community Association, I don't know all the details yet, but I will try and find out, is able to ensure that they have some kind of a community security car going around. I've never seen it. I know Mr. D'Angelo is an exemplary participant in this community. He stands strong. He works hard. Allerton homeowners, they're older. There's a man that I've learned is in his late time of his life, is in a car with his wife at night trying to abate the crime. He should be home having a cup of tea, watching Law and Order. He shouldn't be in a car. So I say to you, do we need something like Chester Civic that was volunteer based? No. I say we need to tandem up with a model that is virtually in existence now. Perhaps not in our community, but there are neighboring towns in New Jersey, Connecticut, and in nearby Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland counties. They have neighborhood watch signs, they have vehicles, they have
Sorry.
cameras. I'm sorry, I'll stop.
Yeah, just because.
But I didn't mean, I know, I didn't mean to
Just to
stop.
address a couple of things.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Morris
but-
Park Community Association, they were donated those cars by an elected official
Years ago.
years ago. Okay?
Oh, I didn't know.
So, and the Allerton homeowners, yeah, they are unfortunately up in age. They need to recruit younger people to start doing the patrols. And from what my understanding is, they do the patrols up until, I think, the Shell station right before Williamsbridge Road, up until Gun Hill, I believe it is. So they need to recruit more people into their group to be
We're
able to do
trying.
that.
We're
Okay?
trying,
And
Yeah.
it's a volunteer patrol.
but we don't
Right.
want, I don't want to volunteer. I-
Well, that's the thing,
That's-
they are volunteer, even the Morris Park Association, they're
Yeah.
volunteer, they're not allowed to actually interact with any
Mm-hmm.
crime being committed. Their job is to go around, if they see something, they report it to the 49th precinct. They don't actually interact with anything going on, they are volunteers, they are civilians. But that's something that's done through the Morris Park Association, and those cars were donated by an elected official. So it's not anything that the 49th precinct is running.
Oh, okay.
But they will report crimes to the 49th precinct, and again, they don't interact with
Yeah.
them. So it's not like we have volunteer people going out and handling crime while the 49th precinct is busy. That's not the case at all,
No, okay.
okay?
And they
You know,
only
like-
patrol until 10 o'clock at night.
Okay, but I'm just saying, what can we do to help this police department? What can we do? What can we say to these elected officials to make sure, I know the budgets are awful, I get all the politics of it, but there's a fine line here. Where's the chaos gonna stop?
It's,
What is it
things have
gonna
gotten
take?
worse over the years. We know
Everywhere,
that,
but
everywhere.
it's everywhere, we get it.
When they say that things are on the low priority, just remember on the higher priority are things where there's a shooting in progress, there's somebody being assaulted, like literally being assaulted in process. Crimes of like rape in process, something like that. Those are high priorities where
Okay.
people need help like immediately. like their lives are in danger, okay?
I know.
So it's not because they're sitting around saying, oh, that's not a big deal, we're not gonna deal with it right now. They are dealing with other things too, and everybody's important. And so I just don't want you guys to think that, or you ladies to think that they're not answering your calls. They're gonna answer your calls as soon as they can, but they are risking their lives and doing other things in the meantime.
So what do you recommend? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm Rich Duran. I've lived in a neighborhood since '78. And I always ran in the neighborhood. Recently, if I'm older, I walk sometimes as late as 10 o'clock at night. Going back a few years, I was stopped. There was always a regular patrol car. You'd see a patrol car on Astor Avenue. I would stop walking in. Going back years, what are you doing here, sir? What do you know? You live in the area? Everything okay? They questioned me. There was a presence. I have not seen a patrol car in years. And I've been out at night, daytime, and I'm a firm believer in prevention. It's very important. If there's a presence, if people see a patrol car, they'll think twice about doing the wrong thing. I firmly believe that.
Right, and like Officer Maderos had said before, go ahead, you could address it again if you want.
You wanted to say something about her earlier.
Yes. The central monitoring companies aren't connected directly to police. They basically do the same thing you would do. They just call 911. I'm sorry, what? Oh yeah, the patrols, yes.
Yeah,
That's what
I
we
see a
get at.
patrol. There used to be
The reason
common
for that.
to see a patrol car, not constantly, but you'd see a patrol car at least once daily going down Astor Avenue, Riverside, especially at night. You see a patrol car, and if I was walking on Pelham Parkway North or running, they'd look to see, you know, if I should be. And I was stopped at times. What are you doing here, sir? You know, can we help you? And they were saying, could they help me? But they wanted to find out who I was.
Yeah.
You know.
Let me get to that quickly. I guess to move things along. There's actually a really good reason for that. Years back, maybe 5, 6 years now, we moved to what's known as the Neighborhood Coordination Officer model of policing. That basically meant that we broke down the precinct from what was 6 sectors, 6 to 7 sectors, I don't remember them anymore, to just 3. The purpose was to make it so that every particular area had 2 officers that you now have the contact information for your sector. And that their purpose was quality of life issues for that particular area. Beneath them are sector cars. They're on every tour. There's only 1 car running per sector, and they are specifically for emergency high priority jobs just in that area. Under them is response autos, which is quite literally everything else. They respond to everything else. The purpose of the system was to make it so that we can more closely make contacts with the people that are in the areas, with the specific officers that are in charge of patrolling those particular areas. That is a program that, as of the last few weeks, has been changed. We no longer have response autos. I'm not going to get into how that all works because we'll be here for like another 20 minutes. But the response auto part has been eliminated from the patrol model, and they've been brought up so that everyone is sector cars. That basically means that there are more cars, more personnel doing the same thing in the same areas. So theoretically, there should be more cars going around in different areas than there used to be.
I don't see a car at all.
Okay. Like I said, that is theory. I'm sure it's not working because most of our crime is on the west side of the precinct, not the east. So even though there are more cars available doing the same things, releasing the workload for the rest of them, because that was part of the problem. All these different levels of patrol cars had different workloads. There really should be more cars available around now than they were years ago. But they're all going to the west side of the precinct because that's where all the jobs are. I guess I'll let you guys know now. I'm going to propose a plan to the commanding officer, hopefully soon, that will readjust our sectors to what they used to be before the neighborhood coordination officer program began. Breaking up the large sectors into smaller chunks as they used to be. And since we have more sector cars dividing all the workload again, we will have more cars to dedicate to specific areas of the precinct, to smaller areas of the precinct, so that there will be cars again rolling around your area because that's their area. They're not worried about what's happening on the west side of the precinct unless it's a real emergency. And even if there's an emergency over there, they're going to come back to your area because that's the area, this little area they're assigned to.
So you're proposing basically to go back to
Cut-
also
cut
have
the sectors into small-
cars?
Yeah, basic, so forcing them into the small areas that we had before. It's
And how long will
something,
that take?
it's up to the commanding officer. And even then, it may not even be up to him. I'm not sure. That's kind of how much control that downtown has as to what we're doing in our areas, as opposed to the older policing model. But that's what I'm going to propose to the CEO, and hopefully something he can do.
Right, because our
Thank you,
sector,
officer.
our sector, Sector C, goes all the way down into Gun Hill Road, into Eastchester Houses, and down towards Allerton a bit. So
I
it's,
can-
it's a big sector.
Sector Charlie is basically everything from here on, and then I think cuts up from Willows Bridge. There's everything up here, then cuts to Eastchester, and then down Eastchester and all of this.
That's a very
So
good-
except for this area, Charlie is all of this.
That's a big.
It's too big for one or two cars to cover.
And how many NYCHA complexes are in there? There's
Oh,
two
and
with them or three?
for Sector Charlie too.
Two.
There's one
Yeah.
here and then one here.
Right. there's just like-
So because this is all Sector Charlie, it's basically what I'm gonna propose to the CEO when I have a chance is go back to the old way where this was the sector and then the car should be here. This was a sector, car should be here. All of this was its own sector, it should be caught here. All that will all of that obviously will depend on the level of manpower we have in a particular tour. But I'm kind of hoping that that can be pseudo adopted by our precinct again.
Now, if you have a regular car who does a regular patrol, they become acquainted with the people in the area. They become acquainted with anything that looks out of the ordinary.
Yeah, that was the purpose of the Neighborhood Coordination Officer program. The problem is that, at least for our precinct, the area is just too big.
But also, if you attend the precinct council meetings, you will get to know your NCOs. We have them, they're the last Tuesday of the month. This month, next week, it will be at Maestro's at 7:00.
So tell us what else we can do. What else can we do? I want to know, what can we do to help our precinct to get the job done and to get it done correctly? So who do we go to next? So,
That meeting.
no, so that's one idea, but what else, officers, should we do?
I don't have any answers for you.
Can you
The
think
only
about
thing-
it?
Even if I think about it, I probably couldn't even give you those answers.
Who
it-
could?
it-
You can
As a
talk to
police-
your elected officials too.
That's
Okay.
that's what I was gonna say.
So we're gonna do that.
The only thing that comes to mind is that we could always use more officers. Just to give an example of what happened last year, during the summertime, we got about 10 new officers, like literally just in the months of summer. We lost 10 officers in that months of summer, just to officers basically just quitting.
I know.
So that's basically what's happening right now. We're losing officers as fast as we're getting.
The ones that we have need to be trained better.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hi, this is
We
Melanie.
have
I'm sorry
people-
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've been waiting for a few people to
Yeah,
finish
hold
up
on one-
just to.
Hold on one second, Melanie, hold on. I do apologize for the people on WebEx. I know we've gone a little longer in the room than we usually do, so thank you for your patience. And we're gonna start if you have a little more time. I'm sorry.
No, I'm here already, so.
Okay, so we're gonna go, for the people virtually, if you have anything for Officer Maderos. So Melanie, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring up that I wanted to add regarding the issues with patrol. I have definitely noticed that we don't have patrol here, and I want to just agree with everyone that if we did have preventative measures, that it would definitely help our community. And I understand that the precinct works very hard and is, of course, overburdened, overworked, understaffed, and all of the above. And we appreciate all of the time and attention that our police officers put into our community. If there is a way to have patrol, that would be great. I live in a building behind Jay's Tavern where we have a living EDP in the building, an emotionally disturbed person. We in this building, every single person in this building has gone to the precinct or has called 911 for the past 5 years. We are at a point where we now have people in the building that have an order of protection against this person because this person has threatened to blow up the building, kill people in the building, kill neighbors on the block, has run up and down the block with knives, baseball bats, has turned off the electricity in the building, the gas in the building. We have called repeatedly 911, and we are at a point where I really believe that the officers are sick of coming to this building. That's what I really believe. They're tired of coming here because every time we call is for this specific individual that lives here. And we're besides ourselves because we don't know what else to do. At this point, we have an order of protection. We've gone to court. We've gone to landlord and tenant court. We've gone to the landlord. We've written a letter. Actually, Jeremy has our letter. We have even gone to Natalie Fernandez. I mean, this has just gone so out of control, and the person still lives here. And just the other day, he actually violated the order of protection. A lot of police officers came. No one arrested this man. And I'm shocked because I know that in the police academy, officers are trained regarding orders of protection and what happens when people violate them. This is not a field training situation. There are courses inside of the police academy that officers have to take, and this is one of the subject matters. And shocked to my core to see a few police officers show up. They definitely responded to the call. I'm grateful that they did. They went to speak to the individual, but no one arrested him, and they just walked out. So it's a problem. It's a problem at a point where I made a phone call not that long ago at 10 p.m. The officers didn't respond till 4 a.m. I was dead asleep by then. I couldn't even let them into the building. I was asleep. I have to wake up for work at 7 a.m. I can't be here 4, 5, 8 hours waiting for someone to show up. I couldn't do it anymore, waiting till 4 a.m. I fell asleep. By the time that happened, the scenario had died down. So there's issues, of course, with patrolling. There's issues with police officers responding very, very late or not responding at all. Or when they do, they actually don't know what to do. And although we have a lot of people that are training, and I understand that people are fairly new, we cannot have our police officers go into a building or residential area, whatever it is, to field these situations and then not handle them properly. It's not excusable. So now I'm in a situation, we are living in a situation where there's still an EDP living here. He should have been arrested for breaking the order of protection, and he didn't. So what do we have to do? We have to sit here and wait for him to do it again in order to be arrested. And it's unfair. 5 years of this, it's completely not a way to live. I'm at a point where I had to get a security camera. A lot of us actually got security cameras in the building, and we have one at each door because what else could we do? We have to share the building with one another.
I'm sorry that you're going through this. I can't say why the officers didn't arrest them. The only thing I can think of possibly is that the orders of protection expired, because there are expiration dates for those things. That I don't know if that's true or not. That could be false. I have no idea. I can't really attest to why they didn't arrest them. When it comes to the mentally ill, our hands are tied as to what we can do with them. I believe the police commissioner, along with in coordination with other entities, are trying to are trying to institute a plan to deal with the mentally ill that are dangerous, or potentially dangerous. The problem is that we're just limited as to what options we can take, especially when they're in their own homes. Normally, this would be the point where me, being an officer, would tell you that it's up to the landlord to get rid of the person. That would be the standard answer. But I'm also aware that right now the laws have changed when it comes to what landlords can do to evict people. And despite the fact that this individual may very well be threatening and everyone has orders of protection and very well could be dangerous, I do know that housing courts tend not to kick these types of people out of their homes. And equally or even more difficult would be to figure out how to get these people the help that they need or get them committed. I really don't have any good answer for you in regards to what we can do in regards to this person. I wish I did, but other than just to respond to however many calls that come over, there's not much else we can do. I myself have made referrals to some dangerous persons that I was aware of, and whether it be the referral to the district attorney's office in the event that they get arrested, or to other entities, whether it be civic or governmental, everyone kind of has like the same answer. We can't force people to get help. There's just a lot of blockages as to what can be done to get these people the help that they need.
I absolutely agree with you. What I would like from you to just take from this, I don't want you just to take it as one big complaint, because I know that you've been in this meeting for quite some time. It's a lot of information. But what I think we all generally want you to take back from this is that our officers are not being properly trained. And one of the officers that came to ask for the order of protection asked, "Do you have an order of protection?" And the answer was yes, and then moved forward, did not ask for a copy to look at it. And just so you know, the order of protection is not expired. It's actually a new order of protection that was just issued not too long ago. So if an officer asks for an order of protection, he or she should be able to see it and act upon it, because there are different types of order of protections with different limitations.
Absolutely.
So what I'm saying to you is that it's clear that there are people that are being trained. That's completely understandable. But as police officers are being trained, there needs to be other, at least semi-seasoned officers who they are paired up with, or report or go to the fields with them, because not every officer knows the answer to everything. That's just the truth. You could be on the job for many years and you may not know how to respond to something. And that's fine, but there's got to be somebody else that might know what they should or shouldn't do. So this is why I'm saying I'm surprised that this person was not arrested by violating the order of protection. I'm surprised that the officer didn't ask to actually vet the order of protection and read the bill of particulars for it, to actually know what the plan of action should have been as a police officer. And that's scary. I'm calling 911 for help, and you come, but you don't know what to do. That scares me.
The only thing I could say to that is something that I'm unfortunately increasingly having to tell people. If you feel that an officer is refusing to take action or not taking action when that you believe the officer should, order of protection is one of them. We actually do not have discretion when it comes to orders of protection. If someone's in front of us and they violated it, we have to arrest them. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. if you feel things like that are occurring or happening, or you're seeing it and you're not getting the service you're supposed to get, especially when it comes to order protection, the option would be to make a formal complaint against that officer or officers that are there. Um, there's two ways to make that complaint. One would be the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and the second would be the Internal Affairs Bureau. I'm not quite sure which one would be the correct place to make a complaint when it comes to this type of complaint. CCRB will take any complaint. IAB take complaints specifically about gross negligence or crimes. I would say that maybe this would rise to the occasion of internal affairs, because there's no discretion involved. They're supposed to take action, especially if they ask. I mean, if I ask, I'm gonna add, oh, you have one? Well, let me see. I'm not gonna just ask you and then walk away. That doesn't make sense to me. So I apologize for this happening. But the only ways to correct such behavior is to make formal complaints on them.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands raised, so I'm gonna go in the order that I see people on the screen, and if you have something that you'd like to address, please say so. So the first person I see is Cynthia Rodriguez.
Jeannie had her hand up before Veronica.
Yes,
Oh,
but she took it down.
it's
We
not
don't
up
see
now.
it right now.
Yes, I took it down because everybody addressed it. Thank you, Robert.
Okay. Cynthia, do you have anything?
No, thank you, Veronica. I'm okay.
Thank you. Dwayne, I know we called on you before, but do you have anything since?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Roxanne Delgado?
Yes. Well, due to timing, I'm going to make this really short. I'm sure you want me to speak within 2 minutes. So first,
Thank you.
Pelham Parkway North and White Plains Road, the plaza. We're having people now sleeping there overnight. So hopefully patrol could address, as you probably know, parks and rules does not permit closes the parkway at 2 a.m. You can walk through the parkway, but you cannot sit or sleep definitely overnight. So hopefully, whether it's Sector B or the patrol, because we have in the morning I find lots of clothing and other unhealthy remains left behind, not hygienic items left behind. So hopefully we could look into that. Pelham Parkway North and White Plains Road Plaza. And then regarding some remarks that were made right now, I myself, who looked at so much of city planning data, I like to say there's a misconception that people who live in supposedly good neighborhood pay more than others. Look at the city planning data. It tends to be that people who live in not so good areas pay more higher property taxes as well as higher income for services. So I'd like to debunk that myth. And second, I think that illegal comment was unnecessary. We're all for public safety, and people who are undocumented also need safety. By the way, during COVID-19, there were the essential workers who were dying to delivering your food, working supermarkets, and take care of your kids who were not in school and were learning remotely. So we could all work together for safety, but there's no need to attack or make disparaging remarks about different sectors in our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Roxanne. Harry Santella, do you have anything? We can't hear you, Harry, if you're speaking.
No, I'm gonna stay quiet because I'm gonna say something I'm gonna regret, so I'm gonna leave it alone.
Thank you. Janine, I saw you put your camera on. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I'm good. Sorry, thanks.
Thanks. Kay Cardona? Kay, we can't hear you. You might be muted. Yeah, you're muted. Okay, we're gonna move on. Kevin Dwala, do you have anything you'd like to ask? I know you sent some questions during email. Would you like to ask the question to Officer Medeiros now? We can't hear you, Kevin.
Yeah, I see. It took me a moment to unmute. Yeah, I'll ask the question from here. Thank you. I've made numerous 311 requests alerting the NYPD that there are dangerously blocked bike lanes on Bronxdale Avenue, blocking sidewalks and bike lanes in front of the Pine Restaurant. Time frame is usually Friday and Saturday nights after 6 p.m. and on Saturday and Sunday afternoons from 1 to 7 if you wanted to take notes on the time. I'm wondering if the captain or any NCOs from the area, and I'm sure maybe you don't know, but maybe you can relay these messages out and follow up for me. I'd appreciate it. Has the captain or any of the NCOs in the area reached out and spoken to the proprietors of this establishment about this ongoing safety issue that I brought to the attention of the 311 request line and the community board for record multiple times, at least a half a dozen in the past, 4 months? And if not, can that conversation be scheduled? We all are aware that the Pine has a parking lot right across the street by the gas station that actually says on it, the Pine Restaurant Valet Parking. But that lot is full of old cars and it's constantly locked and blocked with other vehicles. So if they're talking to, if the restaurant comes up with the issue saying they don't know where to park, well, they've got a parking lot across the street, just that's some information. And if they say that, that's too far away, well, I'm just kind of saying that they have their own parking lot across the street. The same goes for the Morris Park Community Association. Maybe not the most recent meeting, but, as a time frame, Wednesday, 7 o'clock, there tends to be a car parked in front of that place. You can see where I'm going with this. It's just a constant issue. Of course, we all know when you do a 311 request about any kind of parking issues, just get a standard reply. So I'm not looking to do that. But I'm wondering if the captain or the police department, 49th Precinct, has gotten any of this information from the community board to follow up on. Perhaps you don't know, sir. That's okay. I don't need you to respond if you really don't know. But if you can relay this message on, I did drop an email to Jeremy. Perhaps he can forward it off to you guys. Is that okay?
Jeremy sent the email. Was it Jeremy? So, yeah, he already forwarded that email, and I got it a few hours ago. So I'll have a conversation with the CO in regards to it. But that email is also forwarded to the CO, so I'm sure he's already aware at this point.
Okay, well, thanks. I just want to make sure it's on record out loud too. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mariano, do you have anything for Officer Maderos or for the committee?
No, I just want to make a comment that I was walking down Arlington and I saw a group of patrolmen walking down the street. I appreciate that. I like to see that again. Makes the neighborhood safe. And
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. He saw a patrolman walking down the street and he appreciated it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Renata, do you have anything? Okay. Bob, you moved. Bob, do you have anything? Bob Press?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, as everybody should know, I'm in the media. And under the former mayor, we used to have him every month doing the police reports. So we were able to talk to him or talk to the former commissioner, who I happen to know personally, and get things done. But with this new mayor, over the past year, he's been hiding from the media. Basically, after I caught him at Jacoby Hospital last January and got the White Plains Road shelter stopped, or started the ball rolling, I should say, in getting that shelter stopped. This mayor and police commissioner have been hiding from the media. That's not good because they need to be accountable to the people. All right. And I would bring these problems that we're having here in the 49th precinct and other precincts in the Bronx to them at these meetings. But we can't get these, these problems out to the mayor and the new police commissioner. And it's been a year now almost. So that's a problem. As you might know, I've questioned the captain on response time. And basically what Officer Medeiros has said tonight is there are no more response times, which I feel is unacceptable. We need to have response times, even if they're 15 minutes. There used to be supposedly 3 minutes to a 911 call. Now we're hearing they're 3 hours. That's unacceptable, Officer Maderos. Please tell that to the captain. And tell him that I would tell the police commissioner and mayor that the 49th precinct takes 3 hours to respond to 911 calls. That's all I have to say.
Sorry, hold on. I can't talk right now. What was I going to say? Response times. Response times, from what I understand, are typically measured by the time that the call comes in to the time officers arrive. But as I understand it, that's only measured for emergencies. That's not measured for the types of 911 calls that were being complained about tonight. So I'm not sure what the response times are for the command. I'm sure the CO knows that more better than I do. And I'm really not even sure if the department tracks response times for non-emergency jobs. I'm sure they do. I'm just not privy to that information. I don't know how long or short that would be at this point. The only thing I could say in regards to that is that, as I stated before, I'm going to propose to the CO that we break up the large sectors into smaller chunks, and hopefully with the amount of cars that we have on patrol, we'll be able to have a car in those specific areas assigned to answer jobs only in those specific areas, with the exceptions of emergencies or availability. Hopefully that will go a long way to solve the response times for non-emergency jobs, and hopefully get it to be quicker. With that being said, despite the fact that we have more cars on patrol now than we've had before, we also have more assignments than we had ever before. For example, on any given tour, 2 officers per tour, except the midnights, are sent to the 48th precinct, from what I understand. So that's basically 1 car down. That is in addition to what I just learned, FTU officers, 2 officers being sent to the 48th precinct in addition. So that's potentially 2 cars down. That's in addition to officers being sent to transit to cover posts for the entire tour. And that's basically 3 cars down, in addition to other officers being assigned to static posts where they can't move, specifically shooting autos. We've had that instituted for the command, and that is an additional few other officers that can't respond to 911 jobs or any of the other low priority jobs. So, and all of that under even 2 years ago, even all of that would be fine. It'd be a little tough, but it'd still be fine. The problem that we're having now is the numbers of 911 calls we're getting in the command are approaching double what we used to have just 2 years ago. So even though we have a few more cars, we don't have enough cars to respond to the level of 911 calls that we're getting in the command now. We're going, I think we're going back to levels not seen since 2013 or 2007, if I remember correctly. And unfortunately, at that time, we had a different patrol model, so we were able to adapt. But an additional problem to that is 311 calls. Our 311 calls have basically more than doubled. They've basically tripled. So now we're forced to have 1 car per tour dedicated just for 311 complaints. And that 1 car is handling almost like hundreds that we're getting in a day. Like I said, we just don't have the manpower to handle the volume of complaints that we're getting at this point. And I've already touched on it. I'm not going to go into detail about it at this point, but suffice it to say, from now, starting last year, for the next few years, we're going to have an attrition rate of somewhere around 4,000 officers retiring every year. And I think the replacement rate right now is anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 per year. So you take that to be about anywhere between 3,000 to 2,500 officers at best retiring, being in the negative every year for the next few years. That's literally the reality of what the city's facing. And there's no really easy, there's no way to solve that other than to get more manpower and other than to hire more people. But people aren't taking the test. People don't really want to be police officers, not at the rate that they used to be. We used to get an average of 8, 9, 10,000 people applying for these tests. I think we're now getting less than 3,000 applying at any one time. So now we have tests running almost every month to get people to sign up to be officers. So that's kind of the manpower and attrition problem that we're having with the NYPD right now. It's a problem that's been going on across the country for a while now. That is just now hitting the NYPD in mass.
It's the money they pay. It's the money they pay. They're not paying
Madam
officers
Chair.
what they need to get paid.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
If I might,
They're not getting paid what they're supposed to be getting paid. That's why nobody wants to be a cop.
Okay, thanks, Harry. Robert, what were you saying?
yeah, I just want to mention one thing about what our Officer Madero said. He said there are emergency calls that are important and not important. What do you consider a 911 call that is a emergency call that needs to be answered right away compared to one that doesn't?
Shots fired.
There's too many. The only things I could say is basically what's considered crimes in progress, anything involving one of the 7 index crimes, and anything that'd be along the lines of health emergencies, cardiac, shots fired, things of that nature. Those would all be considered part of the emergencies and would be expected to get anywhere between 3 minutes or less of a response time.
Fine, I'm glad you consider a car being stolen more important than a human life. Thank you.
That's not what was said, Robert.
Yeah, that wasn't said, Bob.
Well, I mean, a home break-in could be, as we heard, people, they were scared to death. Thank you.
Okay,
Larry?
thank you, Bob. Larry, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think a lot of what Tyrone covered should also be addressed at the precinct meeting if these people can possibly do that. But he spoke a lot, and I thank him for that. Just that, like he was saying, a lot of the problem is, he says we've got more cars. We have more cars, but we have less patrol officers available. So that's part of the problem. And he was saying, for every 1,000 or 2,000 officers that they hire, you're losing 4,000. So it's like it's a no-win situation for them. But I mean, something has to be done. And a lot of this I think is good to bring up, not just from Tyrone at a committee meeting, to bring it up in front of the commander. It's also plus his idea. We'll see how that goes. That's it. Thanks, B.
Thanks, Larry. And I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly. Shamika, you joined us recently. Do you have anything for Officer Maderos? Okay, and Debbie, do you have anything? No? Thank you so much, Officer Maderos, for staying so late. I appreciate it.
Thank
And
you,
for
Officer.
everyone online, I do again apologize for the length of time we took today, but I wanted to make sure everything was addressed. So thank you all for your patience. Have a wonderful night, and everyone be safe. The meeting is adjourning now at 8:39. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone. What happened to the gallery session? I was waiting for
I-
that.
I thought you addressed everything. If you have something you want to address, Roxanne, go
Well,
ahead.
I have to make a quick question, please, and thank you. I sent an
Sure.
email to the district manager who continues not to respond. My question was, is the full board meeting in person, hybrid, or remote?
Hybrid. It's hybrid.
It's hybrid,
Okay,
Roxanne.
and second question is that since the agenda is not available for the full board, I cannot disclose what we'll be speaking about because I don't have access to the full board agenda. But yet he continues to insist that I have to post what I'm going to speak about. But again, the full board agenda is not available. And lastly, if I plan to speak remotely, do I have to sign up 36 hours in advance? But yet if I speak in person, I don't have to sign up in advance.
Well, in person, we did implement the gallery slips again, but if you are going to be remote, we would ask that you please sign up in advance so we know that there are people remotely that you want to speak.
Well, he should have responded to the.
I can ask him to put you on and just to put that you're speaking about community affairs this time, since the agenda is not available, if that's all right with you, and then you can speak on whatever issues it is you'd like to speak on at the board meeting.
Also, but he should respond to emails because this was time sensitive. Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anybody else that didn't have anything they needed to address to the committee, not to Officer Maderos? Okay, then, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. It's 8:41. The meeting is now officially adjourned. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Nice question.
Yep.